So here's an interesting example of inferred relationships in data arrays. So over here you see I've just got this text document where I have really just kind of put in some sample data. I'm again inferring that these are tables. We've got customers, orders, order items, and products. And what I really represented here through a series of IDs is a parent-child relationship from customers to orders and a join with the order items in between orders and products. So I'm going to actually just copy this as text. I'm going to put it right into ChatGPT, and I'm going to give it a little bit of a message that says something like, using this data, which customer has the most sales? Okay. And what is their most popular product? Okay. So really in this question, I'm actually asking for child data, and then I'm asking for grandchild data specifically through the relationships that are inferred by these IDs. So let's see what ChatGPT does here. So it says that Libby, which is customer 001, has the most sales. It breaks all of this information down, which is really interesting, and the quantity of the most orders. So this is pretty cool. And what other customers? What other customers ordered snacks, right? So let's take a look and see. So the idea here is that you could just have arrays of data. Keep it in mind that this is ChatGPT. This is the public version, not the business version. Really, if you wanted to do something like this, you would use, you'd go directly to the GPT API, GPT-3 API, like DaVinci or actually not DaVinci, but there's a specific one that's called embeddings. And this way, within your API call, you can actually point to data files, entire data sets. And so that really what this is kind of like tricking ChatGPT into doing embeddings. And of course, it's somewhat limited by, the amount of data that you can put inside of, any one of these arrays. It's very similar to another video that I've done where I took an entire data set of NFL data and I just pasted it in, and then I asked a bunch of questions of that data. So it's the same kind of thing, pasting that in, data in here. So if we go back here, we can actually start to ask some kind of interesting questions. Like, for example, let's say there was a recall on the bone product, right? Which customers should we notify about that? Right, that might be pretty important. So now we're kind of going beyond data and calculations, and we're asking it, kind of more real world questions and problems. So we see here, Libby ordered it, Lamby ordered it, Meowzy, they all ordered it. And so in that case, we should notify all of them. So that's pretty good to know. And of all the products, let's say we have to make some tough choices as to which of the products we want to actually discontinue. And so again, a lot of this is where the language comes into the situation. So now you can see discontinuing a product, have several factors, so in this case, we can see that we might want to ask the question a little bit differently. Which is the least profitable? So we have to really be specific with this. So now it can actually go back into the data. And this is interesting because it's showing its work. So the bone product has the least difference between the customer cost and the actual cost. So you can kind of see that listed over here. It actually has no profit whatsoever. So in that case, we would want to break that down. So which in this case, what we're going to do is ask, which is the most profitable and why? Sure, let's ask for a little bit of data. So let's see what we get here. And so you can see how it's determining the profit margin. And of course, ChatGPT has built-in disclaimers like, it's important to note and different things like that. So One of the other attempts that I did at this, if you look here, I thought this was kind of interesting and worth sharing. I mentioned which is the product that's the most profitable, and then it got into COGS all of a sudden. It explained cost of goods sold, and then it went into this whole process where it broke all this down, and it broke everything down here, as you see. And so maybe we can go in here. Which is the most profitable? And I should probably spell it correctly and say product. Let's see if we can actually get it to break a COGS down. So now we've got COGS. It gives us a description of the COGS. And now it's telling us specific things about our data. So we have information on the customer cost, but not on COGS. And it talks about a critical message, blah, 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 blah. Now I can say like determine cost of goods sold based on, let's see, customer cost minus customer, or I'm sorry, customer cost minus cost. And so essentially now we're saying, change what your understanding of COGS is based on the language model. So what I'm doing is I'm training it, and now you can see that it's actually going into the data based on the interpretation that I've given, and it's coming down and, you know, it does all the calculation here. So we see now that snacks are the highest COGS based on what I've told it to interpret, and, you know, some more disclaimers on the bottom there. So really the idea here is, you know, it's pretty amazing that we can just add in data, related data, multiple table away related data, even join data in this case, and through multiple relationships using IDs, it can infer what the relationships are and draw conclusions. So really what, you know, the hypothesis is here is that, you know, you no longer need applications to store and retrieve data, and you no longer need to come up with reports anymore. You can really just allow even the highest level of user with the least amount of technical expertise to just ask questions of data sets. And while this is ChatGPT with a data set copied and pasted, you know, one of the really interesting things is when you do embeddings with enormous data sets. So just a little something to think about when it comes to working with data inside of chat. Some pretty amazing things, as you can see here.